Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to Tashkil. Tashkil in Arabic means to shape. So welcome back to Tashkil to help you shape your careers. So today we have the panel discussion on today we have the panel discussion on how to make the most out of your design school. So we have all the members from our previous keynotes, Manu Amrit, Chami Kapoor, Chavi Srivastava, and Safina Ali as our panelists. And the panel discussion will be moderated by Agrata Patel. So looking forward to it. Agrata, over to you. Let's start the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Newman. Okay, let's get this session started. So, I'll should I get started with the bang on questions itself, or let's say I would just ask you about. So the topic of this session is how to make most out of your design school, and we are targeting towards the population who are like in the junior years itself, and how they want to like shape their own careers future. And before we get the session started, I want to ask every one of you how your 4 years were. So can we like one? Should I nominate someone, or like who wants to go first? Okay, Safina, you go first.
Very fun, I would say. Like, I think at least then, like, the curriculum used to be very chill, and like a lot of professors were just like, do what you want, which was like really nice in retrospect because we actually did what we wanted. And I spent a lot of my time doing tech niche like things or like random side businesses, which like led to really good relationships actually. So that was a lot of undergrad. Then I think in terms of design skills, one thing that I'm very glad about is that I picked up hard skills a lot, like graphic designing and understanding UX. And I wish I would have picked up more. Like I wish I would have spent some time like getting better at programming and research skills. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Oh, I'm going to nominate Charmy.
Thanks, Safina. A lot of overlapping experiences for me as well. 4 of the best years of my life, I feel. Amazing people, amazing connections, and added advantage of IIT Guwahati. What a pretty campus. You have so much place. You're also in the Northeast, so you get to visit a lot of scenic places as well. I think I mentioned this yesterday too, that you have like an engineering backbone at IIT Guwahati. You have the psychology department, the humanities department, so many different kind of people you can collaborate with too. And yeah, I was like a big sucker for clubs at IIT Guwahati. So those were, I think, the highlight. And Safina and I actually met at the basketball club at IIT Guwahati in my first year. And that is how we got to know each other too. Yeah, I think those were my highlights from college. Okay, I'll nominate the next one. Manu.
Thank you. Yeah, +1 to everything Chami and Safina said. First memories, of course, do come of clubs and technique and all the non-design stuff, actually, to be honest. And I think we are also amongst the people who actually didn't enter the design department until our second year. So our first year actually went with spending more time with our hostel mates or like people from other branches and just understanding, okay, how classes work. And of course, after a month, no one went to the classes. Like, so just going to different orientations, getting that hostel feels, hostel vibes, like all that Manthan. The first year Manthan, of course, is special for everyone. And yeah, first culture, and then kind of realizing, okay, 1 year has passed by and we need to kind of understand what really design is, and then getting into those conversations with seniors and like trying to sneak your way into the design department to know, okay, it's more than just, the I think we had the exhibition room really set up in our first year for the Udgam that used to happen then, not the Udgam, like the design exhibition that used to happen. And we just used to pass by it when we went to like a classes. And that was our understanding of, okay, this is what design is, maybe all that bamboo furniture or that like the automobile projects that have been there, or that rickshaw, I think that's been there for forever. But yeah, I guess it's more of the time spent outside your hostel rooms in doing all the fests or the late night walks and the fried Maggie, and that's what I take away from those 4 years. And like I think everyone has spoken about this in the keynotes as well. Like the closest friends I've made in my life have been from college, and they've stuck on. Like even though like you've probably gone for grad, I mean, a lot of you have gone ahead for further studies and have gone through several jobs, and but the friends you made in our undergrads are the one that stick for life, I guess. So yeah, that's the biggest takeaway. Over to you, Chavi.
Yes, I'm so glad I'm going last because all of you like summed up everything that I wanted to say. I would say it was like a really nice vacation after the rigorous IIT and before the real adult life. You know, those were the 4 best years where we got the best of everything. And like another thing that I look back and think about is it was the best platform to do like embarrassing, awkward experimentation stuff. You know, like some of the incidents that I remember, I'm like, I am so glad that I didn't have to do it in the real world in my job or like later on. I am so glad, and most of the people went through similar experiences together. So all of us, like, you know, went through the awkward years together and have come out like speaking at panels and doing such fabulous jobs. But we all share like really common roots in those departments and clubs.
Okay, that brings me to the next question itself, because you have all highlighted the best parts of it. So, what are the most embarrassing moment, or let's say just one most embarrassing moment out of your college? Can you like share that? Chavi, do you want to go first?
I'm like half mind. Should I remind people or should I just like let it go away from people's memory? But I remember it was like my first month and it was this campus freshers, and we had like 1 minute to perform or do something. And I have absolutely zero talent, like zero stage talent at all. And I was so worked up. And then at the end, I made some stupid presentation, which looking hindsight was really bad idea, and presented it. But yeah, so I'm so embarrassed about it till now, and some people remember it and bring it up often in our conversations. I'm like, please don't. But yeah, it was after that I was like, this is the rock bottom, you know, I cannot go down from this. So then I became like totally chilled, and the next 4 years were like a cakewalk. Nothing beats that first month at the campus. Over to you, Manu.
Yeah, I'm trying to choose, and I was checking in the attendees if we have any professors here, but I'll go with a safer story, I think. And it's similar to one to Chavi. I think first year Manthan, we were having auditions in a hostel for people who can sing and dance. And of all the things the seniors had told, like, go participate in everything, I was like, okay, fuck it. I'll go audition for singing and dancing. And of course, the audition was enough to realize what your talents are not. So I'm glad. I think there's no video of it, but it's an incident that keeps coming up. After the third beer when you sit down with your hostel mates. So I'm always reminded of that pathetic song that I sang. Sharmi.
Yeah, I mean, listening to your stories, I feel I come in that similar pool. I was also thinking of Mr. and Miss Fresher first year, and I don't think I have any other skills. Like if I wasn't in design, I don't think I could have done anything else. And at that point in time, I thought ki mimicry karte hain. And Safina was in the judging panel, I remember, with 2 other people. And I went on stage very confidently, and that time 3 Idiots had come out, and I was trying to mimic the Boman Irani character. I did that for 1 whole minute, and there was zero sound in the audience. Like, I was like, why aren't they laughing in the hostel? Like, people were very sweet, so they used to like hype me up. Ki, wow, what amazing mimicry! I still don't know if they were making fun of me or I was really doing it good, and I just zoned out on stage, and nobody understood what I was doing, and even the panel did not understand what I was doing. And eventually, so there were I think 10 people, and 1 person had to get disqualified, and I was the only one who got disqualified in that round. And yeah, that's still scarred in my head till today. That is the first.
Sorry, Charmi.
Like, people did not have feedback to give me also. They were just like, I'm sorry, you are disqualified, because they didn't understand what I was doing anyways.
In my panel, there were Sakshi and Kushagra and all those folks. I'm like, I still don't talk to them. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Over to you, Safina.
I also had to choose from many because I think it was just like 4 years of embarrassment. But I think the one, so I had taken the whole, I don't know if this is a thing in other campuses also, but IDUHD has this thing where girls had to come back at 12 o'clock, but guys didn't. So in my feminism, I was like, ye to ladenge. And I used to like have this whole protest, like I would never come back at 12 o'clock. Just like I didn't even need to be outside. I would just be like, I will not come because like guys can go later. So this one time I like started telling others that we all have to protest, like everyone needs to start saying out, like normalizes ye wo. And the dean called me. And I went with a lot of excitement. I was like, "Aaj to ladenge," and then I was like, "Hamara right hai, like everyone's equal, like aapka security fail ho raha hai if you're worried ye wo." And I was like, "Kya kar loge?" And like not exactly these words, but I was very like what are you gonna do, right? And then he was like, "We can like stop your degree," and then I was like, "No, you are okay. I'm gonna go back. It's fine. I'll go back at 12 o'clock." I didn't still, but like I realized wo kya kar lenge.
Okay. That's like amazing. 4 years itself, and those are, I think you guys played it a little bit of safe with these embarrassing moments. I'm pretty sure you would have more embarrassing moments than these ones, but that's okay. I'll let it go this time. Okay, so let's get started with the discussion. First question that came up was that the research part of the project itself. How do we do the thesis projects? What do you think is most important, or where should we spend more time? Whether it should be a research part of the project, or it should be about iterating and just shipping it, and then user testing it, and again like iterating and shipping it. Because like, what do you think is more relevant? So do I again nominate someone? Okay, Charmi, you go first.
Cool. So my thesis experience is going to be very different from the rest of y'all. I think I was in the mindset where I was not concentrating on what the professor would like, or what like would look good on DOD's image or whatever. I was in the mindset that I wanted to just build something and put it out there for just my learning experience. And I really hope there are no professors here. And my way of choosing the advisor was also which is the professor which is going to give least shits about me trying to explore in my BTP project. So maximum exploration, maximum like going out of like the design conventions, etc. And I started with a couple of topics, and I eventually ended up in how can we as designers design like a playbook for teaching other people design. So I was like exploring with a lot of things like, is physical a good way of making something like this? Do we create a website? Do we create like a mini app, etc.? And I created like prototypes, tested them. And eventually I just realized that Medium blogs worked, and my BTP just ended up as 5 Medium blogs, which had a very good traction also in the end. And my thesis professor was Charu Monga, and she's like one of the sweetest people at IIT Guwahati. Like, she gives you full freedom of doing whatever you want. And as far as research goes, I don't think I had to do user testing a lot there. It was more about seeing the content which is online for design education, and being a designer helped that you knew what was important out there, which you wanted to teach people. So just in my case, maybe the research part wasn't like the highlight for my project. It was just trying out 3-4 different ways of exploring this, and I was very firm on like releasing it and seeing how it works. So also put out a mini website over there. It did not do so well. The Medium thing just worked out after I put out the first post. It got like a very good response, which is why it motivated me to do a couple of others as well. Do you want me to nominate the next person?
I'm confused. Do you
agree that it's better to ship the products and then user test it again and again?
I feel it completely depends. Like if you're working on, let's say, ethics or data, or where you need a lot of information initially, maybe shipping won't help you so much because your model isn't as good to be tested at all. So maybe you need to give it more time. I think Safina would know more into this as well. Just in my case, I kind of knew the 3-4 solutions which were in my head and just wanted to test those, ship those, and see which one works. But I think there's no right answer to this question for sure.
Safina, do you want to?
I think it depends a lot on what, like as Charmi said, on what you're shipping and what the trade-off is. Like, what are you going to lose if it doesn't work well, right? Like, if it's like a small interface thing where like the loss is not heavy, then it's fine. But if the loss is like big enough that you're going to lose the user or you compromise the data, something like that, then you don't do that. And the other thing I think is how much time do you have on the project? Like a lot of the times projects are driven by outside deadlines. Like I need to write a paper or I need to like go through this cycle of product iteration. Like it needs to see users. So I think it depends on that also, like how much time and people do.
Okay. I think my internet is a little bit unstable. So it's totally fine.
We can hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to add to that, I would say it's also different for classroom projects and industry projects, right? Like when you're working in a company, there are already strict deadlines and processes set up. So you have to go with the flow. There's no that, oh, I want to take longer for this part or longer for that part. But if you're doing a classroom project or BTP, you can focus on the part that interests you more. Say if you are more into research, you can like stretch that part longer and explore more. But if you are into, like Charmi said, shipping products and iterating faster, then you can cut short that part and focus on that part. So also like play it according to what your interest and strengths are, because once you're out working in bigger teams and more structured places, chances are that you'll get very less chances of focusing on what you want to do.
I can add a little bit to that. So I think my perspective was slightly different on picking your thesis project. My perspective, and a lot of people in our batch had this perspective, that it's your last chance now in your final year to have this like 2 semesters worth of time to dedicate to one project, which is like a luxury that later on you'll realize you don't get in the industry. Like 1 full year on a project is very rare. So we looked at this as and of this 1 full year. Of course, it includes your last semester also, which in our heads was a semester where none of us are going to work and like make the most of our last semester in college. So there's also the semester before that, which is where the placements are due, right? So a lot of people are thinking of the 7th semester as the last opportunity to fine tune their portfolio so that it becomes more stronger for the placement session. So considering those 2 things, I think the approach that I took was that I want to do something in this project that I haven't done in my 3rd year or a 2nd year. Like I don't want to redo the process or go through the same set of things that I've done in the previous years, and try out something that I have that's new to me. So for example, my 3rd year projects, like the DP1, DP2, design project 1 and 2, were more focused on ethnographic research and doing like heavy primary research in the beginning. And the final solutions and designs were probably like just left at proposals or mock-ups level. Like we actually never built those solutions. So when I was going into 4th year, I was very sure of the fact that I don't want an ethnography heavy project in my 4th year. Like that's something that I now feel a little confident about. Like I've seen that process, I've gone through that rigor. So I purposely took a project where in the first 3 months, like the 7th semester, we just built something. Like we didn't really speak to users. My project was around education and augmented reality. So we just built something without really focusing on the UI and in the design aspect of things. Like we didn't start it with doing like months of secondary research. Like we me and my B2B partner, we said, let's make something. And the idea was that in the 8th semester, we will try doing like a very extensive usability test of it. Like we'll do like, we'll compare it with something else. And that's something we hadn't done before. Like we hadn't really done a technical usability test where we were actually measuring some metrics and we were comparing it. Like that's something we wanted to try out. So, so if you look at it, I mean, my suggestion is don't think of it from the professor's perspective of what will get you a grade or what won't. At the end of the day, all projects in thesis work, like professors don't really want your process to be very like first पहले research करोगे फिर आप कुछ scenarios बनाओगे फिर solutions. That's not what professors look for. Professors look for what your intent is to get out of that project. And of course, if you're able to kind of plan your project that, okay, this semester I'm just doing research because that's my goal of this semester. And the next semester I'm going to do that because that's what I want to get out of that semester. So if you are convinced about that, professors will accept it. So don't let the professors decide your like what you want to do in your project. You decide what is it that you want to try now. Like it's perhaps your last chance in college to go berserk and maybe pick up that tangible thing that you always wanted to do, or maybe play with robotics. Like it's your last chance, and it's a 1-year chance. It is a big piece of time. So use it in your interest, like Chavi was saying.
Okay. That brings me to the next question itself. For example, every student does the thesis projects and goes through a lot of projects during the 4 years, but like never those assignments are never put in their portfolio itself. So how do you like how to make most out of the assignments or the projects they do so that they are actually relevant?
Are you asking this for BTP projects or just projects in general, like classroom?
All of them.
I think one thing is just think of them as portfolio pieces. Like if it were to go in your portfolio, how would you do it? And like not just to complete it. But like I want to say that with a caveat that also don't take every assignment seriously. Like you also like have to decide which ones you're going to put your life into and which ones you have. Like you're not going to be able to do all of them very seriously, but the ones that you're interested in, you find cool, I think of them as portfolio pieces. So what is it that you can show to the world, make that quality, and like.
I agree with Safina. And I feel at least in the first 2-3 years of college, you don't have to put everything on your portfolio, right? You're just starting to get hands-on with things. You're learning tools for the first time. You're building like physical prototypes for the first time. So I don't think it's necessary to have to put it in your portfolio at all. But in case you find interest in one of the projects you've done and it's like half-baked, take it further, even if it's not part of the class. So I'll give an example of one of my classmates, Harmeet, who did his BTP in a certain domain, which was around medical tourism, like people coming to India to get medical checkups, etc. And he started a company after the BTP and he worked in it for 2 years as well. It was just like he did the basic research in his BTP, and definitely that wasn't at the quality or the level that you could just put it on your portfolio. He worked another year on it to get contacts, to collaborate with real industries, and then he ended up like making a full-fledged company and even hiring people. So depends on your intent, and yeah, like don't take all assignments very seriously. Like if you're not into let's say sketching, you don't have to completely like get into it just for the sake of putting it on your portfolio.
Okay. I'm gonna speed it up and ask the next question itself. So this is a little bit of a spicy one. And okay, so what's the relevance of design school if you can be a self-taught designer already? And are the 4 or the 2 years even worth it? Like why not attend a boot camp and sit? Like so.
I think all of us have already answered it in bits and pieces, and it will just sound like a redundant answer, but I'll start making it redundant again. That all the memories that we shared right now were
beyond classrooms, like beyond design classrooms itself. So I feel while I completely understand that you can be a self-taught designer or have a bootcamp, and I have complete respect for that, it's just the playground that college offers you, and the uh, potential of the relationships that you can build there. That is what is important, the uh, not the courses itself. I'll not add a degree to it, because degree to a certain extent is still important in the current market scenario, but not the actual coursework. It's beyond the coursework, I would say. And now I'll let others add to this or completely disagree with it.
Yeah, I think my take on this is both the ways, like the self-taught and the design school taught, they're not like pitching against each other, like both different ways of learning, right? And everyone has their own style of learning. The thing that we forget is becoming a good designer is not just about learning the theories and the design process. There's so much soft skills involved in design, which is actually more important than the like the theoretical knowledge that we gather. And these soft skills include communication, like talking, writing, working in like a group, sticking to deadlines, like all these things that we are learning, but without actually realizing it. And that's where I feel design school way of learning has a slight edge on like honing your softer skills, which is actually more relevant in the longer run. Like you don't want, especially if you're someone who learns more by like by seeing your peers, by seeing by working in a group, by working in a team, and not someone who's very individually motivated. Like for someone who's very self motivated, self learning is the way to go. I think these kind of people struggle actually in a group setting, and they feel very intimidated, and I totally resonate with them. So depending on your style, it's either you want to make the most of that group setting, that environment, or you want to kind of make the most of you individually kind of picking things up at your own pace. So it's yeah, it really comes to the softer skills, which I guess stick with you for the longer run. Like if I think the four of us, if we wouldn't have gone to a college, we probably wouldn't have become as confident speakers as we are now. Like I still shy away from public speaking a lot because I feel I'm really bad at it. But my 4 years in college have helped me kind of come out of that shell and get out there and like just talk and like become better at that. So those are the things that really matter more than whatever's taught in classes and the yeah.
I also think it depends on like where you are in life. Like if you're an undergrad, like I think there are a lot of values to like just doing things besides learning skills. Like you get this, as Chavi said, playground. Like you can try out a bunch of different things, like find your calling. But I think so. I've been part of teaching group for a boot camp before. It's like a totally different style. Like it's people who know they want to get a certain kind of job, and these are the skills they need, and they have very limited time, and they're gonna and it's usually, in my experience, there has been older people, so they spend that time like to hone those skills and get that job. But I think design school is like you're doing, as Manu said, like all of these soft skill learning. You're also like you're making relationships, and I think all of those are very essential. Like you don't just need a few design skills to get.
I think everyone has covered everything, but if I have to share another thing which I've realized is there are a lot of people who are in IIT, but they are not in the design stream, and I'm calling them self-learners as well too, because they've learned from their peers or from people around them. And what I've realized is, like everyone mentioned here, you do learn a lot of soft skills too in design if you are doing like a formal degree. But I don't think if you have done 4 years of, let's say, an IIT, you have to go to another master's degree to become a good designer as well. And what I feel is there are a couple of people here also, like I know Saksham from IIT Delhi, or even Anshuman from your batch, who is not a designer, but I feel they have just pushed harder and they have way more rigor than a conventional designer because it was given down to us. Like I feel we didn't respect that luxury or the privilege of design as much as those people who went out of their comfort zone to learn design apart from the courses which they were already doing. And I have like immense respect for those people who don't just do a degree for the sake of getting that degree, but also realizing they're good at design and they can do it by just learning skills from people around them. I feel that is great.
Thank you for the like that's really insightful, to be honest. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next question itself. How to make the most out of the labs? Because people usually people usually go to professors at the very later point in the college itself, third year or fourth year. So when should they approach it, and how to make it easy for students to approach the professor? And even like, is going to labs relevant?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by labs. Do you mean like animation lab or AI lab?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I can start again. All four of us also have a common denominator, I think, to some extent in AI labs. They are both pros and cons. I would say the pro was like there's already this setup and a bunch of researchers who are working on dedicated projects related to that lab. So in that way, it's a really good, like a almost like an industry setup in your college years to like explore. You have these people who are dedicated to projects, some interesting projects, and the setup, like in the iLabs we had like the entire virtual reality setup and some really nice books and like top of the class facilities. So in that way it's really nice. Cons is just don't get limited to that lab, like also try and explore different labs, even if even if you know that you will not be interested in animation or sustainability. I would still say like go and explore it, because it's worth it. Like don't get stuck on the first lab that you discover and like. And how to approach, the easiest way I found is like through seniors. Like I always ask my seniors that, hey, can I tag along, can you introduce me to the professor, or like just like just go and bug the professor, like email them. Most of the times they were more than willing to have one more worker in their lab. Like they need people to work, so most of the time it worked. I think that should be the way to go about it in terms of labs. And I'll pass on the word.
I also like keep reminding yourself that it's their job to help you, and it's their job to like give you projects, and like you're basically free labor for them. Like you're going in and be going like, I am ready to do all of this work for free, which is like a luxury that they have. So keep reminding yourself that. And like I've often found that either the professors are a little bit like there's this wall around them, or like we find it very difficult because like of the whole culture that they're also elders and all. But what I observe here is that undergrads are very fearless in like approaching professors and be like they choose what project they want to do. Like they're given a lot of options and then they're picking. So like always know that it is their job, they're getting paid to do that. So you have all the right to approach these people. And as Chavi said, don't get fixed with one lab. Like also try out all the different labs.
What I also realized is labs have a lot of money, which we don't know. So just reach out to professors and you'll realize that, at least, for example, I know Keyur sir, EI lab, he had connections at Microsoft, he had connections at Samsung. We were working on a project with Nokia at that point in time. And it's not only good to get like good equipment working with the lab, they'll give you like free software or just resources for building things, but they're also connected with the industry. So even in my batch, 2 people started working with Samsung after being in collaboration with the lab as well. So it's a great way. Like even if seniors will definitely help you, but just like Chavi said, bug the professors. They will eventually just let go and they'll welcome you in their labs for sure. We have a lot of money.
Yeah, plus one to that. I have 2 things to add to that. One is, don't feel intimidated by your peers joining labs, that you also need to join a lab. Like I know it used to happen to me and my batchmates a lot. Like we see, okay, one person has taken up this project. Oh my God, like now I also need to do something, and like suddenly go and start speaking to profs. When you're looking to join a lab or seek projects, first ask yourself, what is it that you want out of that project? What is it that you're trying to explore or know more about? Like, say, for example, the point Charmi said that if you want to explore more about how industry works, then perhaps EI Lab is a good option, because you can try seeking an industry academia collaboration to see an outside perspective on things. But if you're more curious about maybe there's a annual competition that around I don't know um, sustainability or some animation related stuff that you really want to do well on. Perhaps it's the other lab that makes more sense for you. So have a goal for yourself when you're choosing a lab or a project, that this is what you want to get out of it in the whatever 1 semester or 2 semesters. And at the end of the day, it's like Safina said, it's their job, right? So you don't need to feel obliged to stick around to that lab for your entire 4 years. Like, you can switch labs. Like in your 4th year, none of the profs feel, or at least I feel like none of the profs will mind you not like sticking around for the whole duration. Like, you can go change your lab and learn something from a different lab in your final year. And all the profs are cool. Like, they understand that you want to try new things, you want to explore, and they respect that. So डोंट फील मॉरली अब्लाइज्ड कि अच्छा सेकेंड ईयर में EI लैब ज्वाइन कर लिया तो अब 3 साल तक EI लैब में ही बैठना है. नो, it's okay to go tell Kiyosar sir at 3rd year, I want to learn animation this semester, I'm sorry, I'll see you next semester. That's fine. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. Okay. This is another question on the research itself. So, do you think like participating in student design competitions and student research competition and participating in conferences is very useful, or even writing research papers in undergrad is useful?
I can start on this. I have so many things to say, but I'll try keeping it short. I think we were talking about this point before, right? Like, should we put assignments in a portfolio or not? I was then also tempted to bring competitions and all. So I think my take is that even as a student, they say that you have all the time in the world, but technically you have limited time. Like, you need time to go chill and enjoy with friends as well, and do all this non-design work as well. All that is important, which means that in a day you have limited number of hours. So if you were to choose between assignments, competitions, and all of that, somewhere something has to go like down in priority, right? Like, you can't do everything really well and everything has to be the best of your work. That's impossible. So for every semester, like, pick your top 3 priorities. Like, okay, this semester there's this competition that is of really interest to you, so you will keep that as something that you'll give more time and effort for. Like, I think Charmi had this nice framework where she put a price to a project, right? Like, the number of hours you're investing per week, and if at all it needs any monetary budget as well. But put a price on your projects, on your competitions, on your assignments. If you feel assignments are not it's something you're just doing for the grades, it's fine. You can just काम चलाओ काम कर लो उसमें, it's fine. You know at yourself that you're not cheating yourself. The reason you're not putting more time in those assignments is because you are putting the same time in some XY competition that you're really passionate about. That's totally fine. But be intentional, like you know that, okay, this is why more time is going in that and less time is going there. When it comes to research papers, I think, I mean, if you ask whether it helps you get a UX job better, perhaps not so much. It's not really the skill that people look for in a grad design hire per se. If you're someone who wants to explore UX research as a full-time career and not just UX design or product design, it's the best way to invest time in your 4 years in college. Like, if you're able to go through that grind of writing, just even writing, that's such a hard task. And of course, going through that project, which gives you content to create that paper in itself. But just that process of writing and iterating and making those changes again and again, it teaches you so much. So the takeaway at the end of the paper is not the paper itself, but you realizing, okay, is this something you want to pursue further? Maybe you really love that process and you decide that, okay, I want to now explore UX research in more detail. So that's a great takeaway. Like at least you know that, or maybe you realize though this is not my cup of cake. I don't. I like it, but I don't enjoy it as much as say creating posters and wireframes and shit like that. That's a great takeaway as well, right? Like at least you know now that okay, right now maybe I'm not so inclined towards UX research as maybe I'm inclined towards product design or something else. So just for having that takeaway in your head, I think that grind is worth it.
I feel that you have given a very politically correct answer.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a politically incorrect answer. Okay,
Go for
first
it,
I want
Sabrina.
to reveal that like Manu said all of this, but he participated in every single competition, won all of them, and just like created this undue pressure for everyone else around him. So I'm still bitter about that.
That's because I enjoyed participating. But anyways, okay, I'll let you
His
speak.
quality of like ऐसे ही हो जाता था.
He's like just one. It was very annoying. But I think I will answer the second part which you asked, like, are research papers needed? They're not needed at all. Like, no one expects research papers out of an undergrad student. If you enjoy writing them, like as Manu said, like do it to try it. Like so you know, okay, this is like some people love doing it. But like be aware that like review system is brutal. Like I still cry on review days. Like it's not fun like that part. But I think the writing, like doing analysis, technical writing is a thing that will help you, right, regardless of where you go. And another thing that you can do to take like baby steps towards writing papers, start writing blogs. I know that Charmi had started doing that. And I think that is like a softer medium. Like you get a little bit less negative feedback, but it also like gets you in the habit of writing.
Yes, and I had like a completely different experience with competitions. Like I gave up on them pretty early because I didn't win the first few. I was like, all of this is rigged and just a waste of time. So like third or fourth year, I did not do it. Like in hindsight, I think I could have tried a few more competitions before deciding it's rigged. But yeah, like I didn't do any of it. But I do feel it's a really good way to balance your portfolio. Like if you see your portfolio is missing projects, especially coming towards the placement season, a project with a deadline which you might give you some extra money and spotlight, that's like the best way to go for it, right? So that was my only motivation for sitting in these competitions or trying for them, that okay, I would have 4 people helping me add a portfolio to my project which might get me money. So that's the only way I approached these competitions. But all of them are rigged. So but all of them are rigged according to me.
Yeah, listening to all of y'all, I feel I have a very different take on this. Like, I never looked at competitions as portfolio pieces. I saw it as a way of getting feedback from outside of your design community at DoD. So one was, where do you stand in the ecosystem, not only in India but also outside? So I also remember there was this OSCI competition. It used to happen for 2 days, and I didn't think it was like so much effort that I'm going to leave out a lot of things just for this competition, and I wasn't doing it for the portfolio as well. But just after you design, I thought our team did very good in our first year. We were like so proud of it because DoD में काफी अच्छा लग रहा था project. And when you put it out there and you see you're nowhere in the standings and you see what other people have built, you're just like blown away that there's so much out there to learn as well. And I remember they also sent you a critique that you can improve on these things. This was good. This is where you stand. And I thought that was a great way of learning apart from just that MDes and BDes circle around you.
Makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. It's 6:47 right now, so we have around like 4 or 5 minutes to wrap this up. And this is the last question. So, what is the best career advice that you have ever received? Chavi, do you want to go first?
Mine is pretty simple, which I think I read it somewhere, and it's always like pick people. And I think that has worked really well for me so far, at least early in my career, that whenever you're prioritizing different things, be it like the company, like brand name or compensation, like seek people who you want to learn from or who you want to become like. So I strongly believe that picking people, the art of picking people for your career is really nice.
Mine has to be focus on compounding. So even though, and I don't think I follow it completely right now as well, I'm a person who loves exploration. Like you're trying this for a couple of years, then why not try this for a couple of years and then do something else? This advice I got was from someone who had been in an industry and is doing very, very good at it for the past, let's say, 10 whatever years. And they said that if you found something which you really like and the industry demands, just hone down on it further. Like you can always improve at the stage you are. Even though it's great to learn complementary skills, you should reach at a level where you are way too specialized in this thing that nobody can replace you in X. Because my personality and nature is to always keep jumping from one thing to other because I love exploration and I'm very curious. But if you are lucky enough to have found something which you are extremely good at and enjoy doing it, like just don't let that go. Keep investing time, resources, money, whatever it is, and become amazing at it.
I can go next. I think the space that has stuck onto me, and I hope it sticks on forever, is to always stay grounded and be humble, specifically for your career. I think we all, especially as designers, I feel we have that initial that I don't know how to describe it. It's like when we start putting our designs out there, we feel we are more creative than everyone else, and we start getting that spotlight on you that, oh, you're doing something different. You're so like, and so it's very natural for us to get into that zone where we feel very high of ourselves. And as soon as that starts happening, is where you need to for whatever you do, bring yourself down to reality and say that actually that's not the case. You are like even though you're special, fine, but there's so much more for you to learn and grow, and that will stay on forever. Like even if when I'm retiring, perhaps in the future, I still want to be in that state that, oh, there's so much more I can learn and there's so much more that I can grow into. And it's you'll never ever do your best work if you keep thinking like that there will always be something better that you can do. So yeah, just don't get carried away by maybe the Instagram likes that your logos or your designs get, or maybe like in our days, I think Facebook was more popular, so we used to like our success was okay. Technique ke poster pe kitne like aaye, like oh my god, that's such a great poster. I mean that's great to celebrate for that particular day. Like we can celebrate over the canteen that day, but next day, oh, that's such a shitty poster. We need to do better. That's a mindset you need to have even in the industry today. Like every day, you need to think that you can grow and you can become better.
I think for me, it has been someone told me that the best way to figure out where you belong is to try out a bunch of different things. So I did that, and if you have the luxury to do that, like that is a privilege to be able to do that. So do try out a few things and like find avenues to try them out. That was one. The other one is the thing I think about a lot is that don't let go of your empathy. Like as a designer, especially, like obviously everyone should have empathy, but like as designers, like our livelihood also depends on our empathy, and like lots of things happen in life which like make you like feel less and less. This is sounding very dark, but like there are things that make you feel more also. But like, and that makes you think it's easy to like feel less, or it's easy to not empathize as much with other people. But like sometimes even when it's hard, like practice empathizing, because that's also affecting your like work and life a lot also.
Okay.
I would also like to do a round of worst advices because I think there are so many around. Like, and I've received so many, and I can start this round again. Like the worst advice. I think early on, the one that I got was don't make friends in your colleagues. And I agree. Like there are boundaries. You're working professionally. All that is in their place. But some of the best friends that I've made in last 2 or 3 years are in my colleagues because you work with them like almost like 8 hours a day, and you had to survive like a pandemic with them. Like you were not talking to your relatives daily, but you were talking to them daily. So I think that's one of the worst advices I had early on in my career, that like in the first few weeks I was actually trying to be, like that really cool and distanced person from my colleagues, and I don't think you should do that. Okay, over to you, Manu.
Yeah, I think in my first year, most of the common advice was to go speak to your seniors and try replicating things and following them. And I soon realized that that was influencing a lot of us more than it should be. Like we were almost like idolizing that that's what you want to do as well. Which in retrospect I feel is terrible advice. Like seniors are meant to 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 be an inspiration and not something for you to set the benchmark on. And the more you grow your influential circle, like if you're stuck in that bubble of DoD and your like your 50 peers, then you won't think beyond that. You'll only think, okay, what's the best project that your seniors have done and all of that. That's not the limit that you want to set for yourself. The limit is the sky, and so I don't think seniors should be looked at as, or even alumni, like none of us should be looked at as role models. I feel that's not the way. Like you need to decide for yourself what's your sky, and just make that your dream and go after it. Like yeah, that's I guess the
My life was a lie.
Manu, while you've hit the nail on the head, I would have to say that Manu's blog post was something which I had referred to before coming to IIT Guwahati, and they were, I think, the one sole truth document, which was even better than the IITG website, where I got to know more about what happens here. And I'm so glad I came across it, and thank you, Manu, for publishing it. Bad advice, mine would be, it's mixed. I have heard this during school and in career as well, is that you need to have a very strong design brand for your everything, for you as a person, and that will help you stand out in the community. So which is why people write blogs just to have that brand, or start YouTube channels just to have that brand. And I don't think that is a good way of investing your time too. I feel maybe learn the craft first, become better at it, because of course time is limited and you can always build that brand if you're just doing it for the sake of building it. And people say that you build brand by going to conferences, and I am completely against that. Don't go to conferences if you're just going there to build your brand, or listen to those inspiring talks.
I can't think of bad advice. Sorry. I just like everything everyone tells me. I guess that's a bad thing to do. Like, take things with a grain of salt. Like, decide what is best for you. Like, just because you idealize a person doesn't mean everything they're saying is right. So that's a thing. Also, like, whatever you're good at, or whatever seems easy should not be the only thing you should stick to. And like I was so very, like, if you're good at something, like monetize it, or like make that your life. But like that's not really true. Like you might be good at something, but that might not be the thing that keeps you most interested. So try out a bunch of other things also.
Okay. That's okay. That was my last question. And
okay, so there's questions in the chat, like the question panel, if you want to see.
I'm gonna take the question itself. So what are your thoughts on students doing internships and freelance jobs along with the semester? So who wants to take it?
I can go first. I would say go for it. Go for it. Like I remember in second year, I got this side gig of making posters, and it was so less. Like for 3 months, I was getting like 3,000 something, but that was my first earnings, and I was over the sky. Like wow! And it's also like a lot of money as a student to like spend. So that, and also it's good to start getting the professional experience, right? Like there's no harm in it at all. Just balance your time well, but I would say go for it.
I just want to add the same point that don't be carried away by peer pressure in these aspects. Like the person who is actually doing it may be managing time better than you. Maybe they are more interested in the learnings they're getting out of those. Doesn't mean you also have to do it. So don't feel the pressure to do it because someone else is doing it. If you feel the pressure should come from other sources, not from the fact that someone else is doing it. Yeah.
Actually, it's a slightly different thought. Like, I am more of the thought key, don't do it. And like, not for internships. Like, internships are great, and you have a summer and you get to go out, look at the industry, all of that. But what I started doing was a lot of freelancing while in the campus, and like, I would get like all these clients make you do it. Like, one, they're very exploitative. Like, it's obviously luck based, but a lot of the times the amount of work they make you do versus what they're paying you is like very, very less. Like the work is a lot. The second thing is, if they're not good at mentoring you, or if you're doing it alone, like, then what are you even learning, right? Like, whatever you're giving them is the best thing. Like, it's a great way to make side bucks, so like, try it out. But for me, the experience was not the best, where like, every time when I was in the thick of it, I used to be regretting, why did I pick this up? Like, this is so annoying. And I won't do it the next time, and I do it again. But like, I would say like, be very careful about what you're picking up. Like, just don't pick up anything that.
That is so. Actually, okay. I should take the next question. Sorry. So the next question, Mansi. Okay, thoughts on your students doing. Okay. I think this question is more so for Charmi and Safina. How was the design school different from DOD to your respective master's university, and did your approach to college change in any way?
I can go first. So I think I did not do a master's degree to learn from courses. Where I am right now was more for exploring the design scenes in the West, plus buying myself some time to just understand what I want to do after having worked in the industry for 2-3 years. And like I mentioned in my talk as well, like, I am at Harvard, and Harvard does not have like a UX or a proper design school. It's more of an architectural school. So the reason I went there was to study more about business and product. And I thought I did not want to put all my eggs in one basket and just do an MBA or just do a human computer interaction course. So mine was completely a self-exploration sort of a place, and highly dependent on the location and the sort of opportunities it gives you after that. And also, if I want to work in the US after this, it was just a nice gateway.
I agree with everything Charmi said. Also, I think for me, when I was doing programs here, especially like the Media Lab, I spent very little time actually doing courses in the Media Lab, which was very different from DOD, where like most of our courses were in DOD. Here, I like spent time with other schools. Like, I did a cognitive science and computer science and like psychology, things like that. And I think that was a good advantage, like just going to other departments. I think DOD was definitely more exploration, which was better than here. Like, when I came here, I had somewhat an idea of like the kind of things that I want to do. They're very different, both very valuable. I think the crowd I had at DOD I think the crowd is like very brilliant and great both places, but I think the friends I had there were like closer.
Okay. But you also went to CMU, right? So how were the three experiences different?
Just collecting degrees for fun. Yeah, CMU was very hardcore. Like, it's a depressing place sometimes. Like it was very hardcore in a good and a bad way. Like, I think like university wise, I'd have expected MIT to be more hardcore, but actually no. Like, people have a lot more life at MIT and IIT, but like didn't as much at CMU. But I think at CMU I was very course oriented. Like, I was very like, I need to do all of these courses. The one thing it introduced me to was doing research with professors. So like, there's a thing in most universities here called independent studies, which is kind of like working in labs in India, where you can go and work for a professor for a semester. Like, people start doing it because like it's a way to make money, but like eventually like I really got into it. And I think like just being exposed to this like world-class research, like CMU is one of the leading places doing HCI. So just like knowing what is going on in HCI was very mind-blowing to me, because like what I thought HCI was completely changed, because it's a very integrated field with all these other fields.
Okay, so Lakshya asks how to make most of our college life in our last semester. I think this.
Go to Coca.
Go take a dip in Serpentine Lake. Whatever's left in the checklist.
Aren't you like do all those trips that you've been postponing, like Tawang and Nepal, typical ones? Like don't miss
People
out
aren't
on
COVID, dude.
like when we will return. Yeah, good point, Chami. I almost forgot that.
Yeah,
I heard
talk
the
to us
campus
again.
is reopening, though. Like people are going to go back in a month's time. That's what I heard last. But yeah, good point. It is COVID.
Yeah.
Spend more time with your friends, colleagues. You won't realize how fast this is going to just vanish from your lives. People will leave the country. People will start their jobs. You're going to be in different geographies. Just spend as much time as you can with peers, seniors, juniors.
People first.
I also think that is the time when like most of you have figured out like either your job or like admission results have come in. So like there's no like to do, which is good. Like you can like a more serious answer to that. Besides all of these things, which are also very important, is key. You can figure out a lot of like do research, figure out a lot of places and what kind of work they're doing. Like read people's papers, look at people's portfolios, and just like expand your horizons. Because like courses in the last semester don't really matter. So like all you're doing now is like you have time for yourself. So work on.
Go swim in the pool. I know a lot of people don't go swim. We have a really nice swimming pool.
The water is really like, I did that, but the water is like they don't change the water. Okay, I'm not saying that, but yeah.
Again, pre-COVID advice, so with of course a big asterisk. So
Yeah, dude, actually, you won't get free sports facilities after that again. The athletic ground, the gym, that basketball, volleyball ground. Please make use of it.
Okay, so the next question Neha asks is that on campus, what did a day in your life look like at your most productive versus your least productive? Were you productive?
I'd say least productive. I'd just be like at the canteen, like eating Maggie and like hanging out, wasting my life.
I don't think I understood the concept of productive and non-productive during that time, right? Because even hanging out with friends was productive in my mindset. Like I got to know so much about the campus and the people and all the gossip. So that is productive. But yeah, a more serious could be like the days that I could spend some hours maybe in the classroom or like in the lab. That day I felt like on top of the world that okay, I did something, and then finish it up with maybe like playing basketball and going to Khoka. That was a nice day basically.
yeah, I think plus one to that, the memories of like doing night outs just because there's a deadline or a deliverable maybe the next morning or like in the midnight, but never as a group, like not just doing it by yourself, either in the lab or in the hostel, and then celebrating it with that morning coca chai or that dosa that was such a huge thing in our towns in the morning. So that's I guess the productive, even though it wasn't really productive in retrospect. But yeah, don't feel pressurized to be productive in college. It should be the last thing bothering you.
I was about to say the same thing. Like if you can get your sleep at night and manage to get food in the morning and reach class on time, it's a productive day. There have been very few days where I've managed to get all three. Yeah.
Damn. I thought like definitely one day before Techniche or Alger would come up as the most productive day because that's when you get most of the things done. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. Hetal asks is that I feel this is catered towards Chavi and Manu, and what made you choose to continue work in the industry over doing a master's program? Chavi, Manu, do you wanna?
Okay, I think I can go.
Yes.
Cool. So there are two aspects to this. I think one, Charmi and Safina covered while they were talking about their experience, is that especially for someone who's done a bachelor's in design, who already has 4 years of experience kind of exploring the field. For me, the only reason to have done a master's in design was if I wanted like a gateway to a job in the US, like a fast gateway. Actually, you can still go and do a job without doing a master's, which is that it takes more time, and then there's dependencies on the visas, things like Chavi covered, like the things that are not in your control. So master's is like the fast track way to get a job in the Bay Area, in the West, if that's what interests you. From a career perspective, in terms of what helps you grow as a designer in the industry, my experience was that master's degree is not that relevant. Actually, now even a bachelor's degree is not relevant. There's so many people who are self-taught and are doing, if not the same or even better than you in the industry, right? So degree really isn't going to accelerate your career per se or give you more opportunities. It's your work and your craft that will get you there. And that became very clear to me through my internships and through my few years in the industry, that for me to grow here, I don't really need a degree. I just need to keep getting better at work. So I never had a motivation to get a degree in that sense. Like for personal reasons and other reasons, I never wanted to move abroad. Like I wanted to keep India as my base for my career. So since that was never there, I just never had a motivation to go for a master's. And also because I was really pumped and excited about working in a product industry, working in the tech industry, and I knew that was something that I can be good at for the next few years. So yeah, that ways I just didn't have a reason to. But it's again, it's a personal. It's my reason, right? It's not like everyone has the same reasons. Like I know a lot of people. Half of my batch was like, oh, we need to just go to the US and live there. Like I never had that kind of so it's a very individual, personal thing that way.
What happened in internship, Manu?
Yes, that's one to everything that Manu said. And also, like when I was making that decision, I was only looking forward to a master's as a gateway to have jobs in US and Europe. And that I felt was not a good enough reason, because masters is a big commitment of time as well as money, and more so on the energy you spend, right? It's not a cakewalk like bachelor's that you just do it. It's a very big commitment on your time, energy and money. And I just didn't feel prepared to take that big step immediately out of the college, both financially and mentally. So I thought maybe it would be a good idea to, like, because I had a pre-placement offer, I thought it would be a really good offer to spend a few years figuring out if that move is worth it. And once I got into the industry, I realized that I'm really enjoying this. Like I'm enjoying the structured approach of building and shipping products, and you're like, luckily we are in that time phase that the markets have also opened up in terms of getting a job abroad. Like you need not necessarily have a degree. So for me, the timing just worked perfectly in terms of that. Okay, like I can go abroad without getting a degree, and that just worked in my favor. And I'm not rejecting masters outright even now. Like maybe 2-3 years later, I'll be fed up with this product industry, and I would like a break. I would like to explore, and then I would go for it. Like I would totally go for it. But for me personally, like Manu said, the timelines just so happen that industry work makes more sense for a couple of years before I jump into masters.
Okay. So the next question Mansi asks is that design extracurriculars versus non-design extracurriculars. So probably she wants to ask that what to choose. Should you choose like extracurricular design or non-design?
What is design extracurriculars?
Technique, design creatives or alter creatives or something like that.
I mean, I think extracurriculars are extra, right? To like do what you love, and like if you do love doing like those techniques, I think I didn't do techniques because of the design part of it. Like I did techniques because like I like hanging out with Manu, or like I really like the juniors I work with, like things like that, or like I really like techniques also. So promoting the event was exciting. So I think like do it for what you're excited about, like not really just design.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next question. Lipika asks, if you could go back to campus for one day, what would you do?
Yeah, I'm curious about this too. Like, who wants to?
I can answer because I've already imagined it so many times in my head that oh God, I wish it's a day that like those days when you wake up and it has rained the entire night, so it's like that foggy, wintry Guwahati. That used to be my favorite. The days I woke up and it had rained the previous night. Um, so I hope it's one of those days and not the chip like that sunny day. And I would just like go to the core one canteen, have the aloo paratha, then go to Subansiri, have the fried Maggie, then go to I think Omnium was it for the paratha, then go to Khoka for the chai. So yeah, my day would be planned around food basically, and then hopefully catch the ferry for the sunset, and then go to one of those new places that opened last year, like when we were in our last year for like a nice drink. That would be amazing.
That sounds
I
very
think
hectic to me. I feel I would have borrowed Chubby's view and maybe be in my room, plus also have the people who are around me. And I used to love when we used to have those conversations with seniors, juniors. Ek room mein milke, everybody used to sit there for hours and maybe like get coffee or something from the canteen and enjoy that view and just spend some time talking and chatting. I miss that luxury of just knocking on the wall and then the next person just enters your room.
Okay, do you, Manu, Safina, do you want to answer the question also?
Yeah, I'm reminded now of the Counter-Strike tournaments that used to happen like in our lobbies, and I'm tempted to do like a mix of both, like stay in the hostel and have that room conversations with whatever chai or non-chai. Of course, we won't be having chai. We all know that. But after that, maybe go out for a walk in the evening. I've always enjoyed the campus in the orange lights. Once things settle down and like go behind the old NAT campus, like that Pichewala Road. Yeah, just be out on the roads at like after midnight and uh, remember the old days.
After midnight, you say.
I said that intentionally because now that you're not a student, anyone can hang out after midnight, right?
Right. I think for me, I know a lot of you have been back also. I feel very scared to go back because I feel like I'll be very sad because like the same people won't be there and like the campus would have changed. Like undergrads don't even live in the same hostel anymore. So I would be very like I'm very emotional like that. But like if I did go back, I think yeah, going on long walks definitely, having cold coffee in core two, and like there was this pakoda auntie in the faculty gate. I would do all those things. Those fancy like the roof, like just get coffee there.
Also that the rule 12 entering before 12 p.m. rule that changed. So yes, that changed in my first year. So after that, you were allowed to like stay outside.
Guys, we almost got expelled for it. I hope you guys appreciate your seniors.
Your protests, Safina. So
Yeah.
good job.
I don't know if it happened. I'm glad.
Okay, the questions keep coming in. So this, I'm gonna take this last question and then we'll wrap up. Is that okay? So again, what makes studying design at an IIT different from going to a more conventional design school like NID or Srishti? I think this has been answered, but if you wanna like go.
I have a quick take on this, and I'll end with this. I think even in IIT, like it's very easy for us to form that bubble of designers around us and live in that bubble for your 4 years. I've seen that bubble even more in NID and Srishti, where your peers form your immediate understanding of the world and of design. In IIT, without us doing anything, that bubble used to break more than often because of the non-designers that were around us. And we would inevitably talk to them and work with them and become friends with them and realize that design is not the superpower that is going to change the world and is going to solve all your problems. That there's more to life than just design, right? Like, so I connected to the fact that IIT is what kept me grounded, and I feel in design schools, it's easier to not be grounded. Like it's easier for you to float away into the sky in the dreamy design world. And that's where I guess IIT is slightly different.
I agree with Manu, but I would also just like to add one more disclaimer here. Like, there's really no difference in terms of coursework. In fact, I feel the coursework for NID and Srishti is more rigorous, having seen it more closely with my sister. So, I would say like the coursework and the opportunities are almost the same, but just as Manu said, the crowd is more diverse, so your brain is more open as compared to just studying in a sole design school.
I think you guys have covered everything. If you want to date people who are not designers, come to IIT. You'll have way more options. It's difficult to date designers, is what I would say.
Okay. Is that coming from experience?
Next question.
Should we take? Okay. So, what's your take on MBA immediately after design degree?
I think none of us have done this, but I can speak to it because, like, I live close to Purvi Vijay, who was someone in my class at BDes, and she is doing an MBA at Harvard right now. And she didn't do it immediately. From what I understand, you can't even do it immediately. Like, I think you can do it at IIM and all, but like a lot of places need you to have work experience, including I think Indian School of Business. I think she really likes it because like it was her calling. Like she really wanted to get into the business side of things. If you're into like strategy and all that, like it works out. And I'm sounding like I know nothing about business, but like I know that like she really likes it. So like definitely reach out to her. Very sweet person, will tell you more about MBA. All of
that. Okay.
If you're more curious about like just applying for an MBA, there are deferred programs as well where you can get in 2 years later, but apply right now because they give preferences to students. So you can like explore the world for 2 years, but then end up in an MBA, but be carefree because you're not going to have to apply again.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next question. What makes design? Okay, this discussion has been answered. Do you have any books that you would suggest?
I can suggest so many. Just tell me what topic. No, but I'm kidding. Like, what books do you want? Like,
can we like suggest fiction? I don't have any design book recommendations. Like, I hate them. It's my personal thing.
I would say read out of design. Like, I actually don't find design books that interesting. Like, it's very like it's a lot of fun day, and like if you enjoy that, that's for you. But I would say definitely read out of design. Like fiction, though, obviously is always interesting. But like, I really like reading like history books now. Architecture journals are really interesting. Like that was a thing I didn't expect. So I read outside of read sociology books also. Like they're also very.
Okay, that's all of the questions we had, and I don't know how to end this session, so I would probably need Newman's help.
Okay, I think I'll take off from here. Thank you so much, guys. So it has been an amazing session, and I would like to wrap up the whole entire session by giving a shout out to my team members, especially Shraddha Shaju and our juniors who helped us make this whole thing a huge success. And I would like to call out the names Atharva, Aditya, and Devanshi. They were super helpful. Thank you so much, guys. And also an amazing audience. Like they came for 3 whole days, and a lot of they kept cheering us and supporting us throughout this event. Like frankly, this would not have been a success without you guys. You guys have been so nice and civilized, even if I'm allowed to say that. So thank you so much, guys. It has been an amazing 6 hours of a lot of eye-opening facts and a lot of information. Yeah, thank you so much. With this, we would like to end the session. I hope we will do so. Also, for the recordings of these events, if some of your friends have missed it, we'll be uploading the link on our Instagram soon. So do follow our Instagram at Bytespace Design for further updates. Thank you so much and good evening.